Imagine a kingdom bathed in radiant gold, where the air itself seemed to shimmer with promise. This was the age of Solomon, the son of David, heir to a throne forged in battles and sanctified by covenant. His reign did not begin with the clash of swords or the hunger for conquest, but with a prayer whispered in the stillness of night. When given the choice of wealth, power, or long life, Solomon asked for something greater, wisdom. And from that moment, the world would never be the same. Rulers from distant lands would travel across deserts to hear his words. His proverbs became rivers of insight, flowing through generations. His court gleamed with riches beyond imagination, yet it was not gold that defined him. It was the mystery of a mind illuminated by God. But within this brilliance, shadows began to stir. For Solomon's story is not only one of wisdom and glory, but also of weakness and fall. Behind the splendor of palaces and the songs of a prosperous nation, a silent tension grew. The heart of the wisest king was still the heart of a man. Today, we journey into a story both majestic and haunting, the rise and the decline of Solomon, the king who touched the heights of heaven, yet stumbled in the depths of his own desires. Solomon did not rise to his throne wrapped in glory. He stepped into it as a youth, untested, uncertain, and overshadowed by the colossal figure of his father, David, the warrior poet, the man after God's own heart. The crown upon his head was heavy, not with jewels, but with expectation. Before him stretched a restless nation, yearning for peace after years of war, aching for prosperity, and desperate for a shepherd king who could lead them into a new era. And then came the night in Gibeon. Beneath the vast desert sky, where the stars blazed like eternal witnesses, Solomon lay in the silence of a dream. But it was no ordinary dream. The voice of the Eternal broke through the veil of night, a voice at once tender and thunderous. "Ask for whatever you wish me to give you." It was a moment that could have shaped kingdoms in gold or drowned them in ambition. Solomon could have seized for himself the riches of empires, the crushing of enemies, or the lengthening of his days. Yet in that trembling stillness, with the weight of eternity pressing upon him, he asked for something far greater, wisdom. Wisdom not for his own glory, but to guide a people who were not his, but God's. And in that sacred request, history shifted. A young heart, aware of its fragility, opened itself to the boundless, and the wisdom of the Almighty descended. That night, a king was not only crowned by men, he was anointed by heaven. Jerusalem stirred with a new rhythm. Under Solomon's hand, the city rose not merely in stone and cedar, but in vision and wonder. The clamor of hammers and chisels filled the air, yet it was not chaos, it was symphony. The walls expanded, the palaces gleamed, and the streets began to mirror the dream of a king whose wisdom was shaping not just a nation, but a legacy. At the heart of this dream stood a desire greater than monuments of power, the temple of the Lord. Where David had fought to secure the land, Solomon longed to consecrate it. Cedar from Lebanon, gold from Ophir, and the finest artisans from every corner of the realm converged in a divine choreography, as if creation itself bent to the vision of the young king. It was more than construction. It was prophecy in stone. Each block raised toward the heavens declared that Israel's God dwelt not in shadows, but among his people. And as the sun gilded the unfinished walls with morning light, it was as though the city itself whispered, "A golden age has begun." Yet even in glory's dawn, the faint echo of shadows lingered, for every monument carries within it the weight of human frailty. Word of Solomon's wisdom spread like a golden river, flowing across deserts, seas, and distant thrones. Kings came with gifts in trembling hands, hoping to touch the mind that seemed to hold the pulse of the universe. In the heart of Jerusalem, justice became a song, each judgment a verse composed by a soul attuned to the divine. One night, a story unfolded that would forever echo through time. Two women, a child between them, and a cry that pierced the quiet halls of the palace. Both claimed to be the mother. The city held its breath, the air thick with tension, as Solomon's eyes, calm and luminous, searched deeper than the words, beyond the lies, into the fragile hearts of the women. He spoke, not with force, but with a brilliance that shone like morning over the hills. He would divide the child. And in that fragile moment, love revealed itself. The true mother stepped back, surrendering what she cherished most to preserve the life of her child. In silence, the court understood. This was not merely wisdom. This was poetry written in human hearts, mercy carved into the fragile wood of life. And yet, even in this triumph, a subtle shadow stirred. Each mind he enlightened, each soul he touched, whispered of a peril. The heart that sees everything risks falling in love with its own light. The brilliance that illuminated nations could, in quiet hours, ignite a loneliness that even a king's crown could not shield. Solomon's kingdom gleamed like a jewel under the sun, each street, each palace, a reflection of dreams made tangible. Merchants from distant lands brought silks, spices, and treasures, filling the air with scents and colors the world had never known. Jerusalem became a symphony of abundance, a city that breathed both grandeur and the quiet pulse of life. Yet behind the glittering gates, behind the laughter of feasts and the shimmer of gold, the young king felt the weight of eternity pressing upon his shoulders. Every gift, every crown from afar, whispered of expectation and envy. The world adored him, but the heart of a man is not swayed only by riches. It is stirred by longing, by the tender ache of a soul searching for meaning beyond silver and stone. Solomon walked through his halls, listening to the music of the fountains and the laughter of his people. Yet in the silence of his chambers, he confronted a different truth. Glory is a fragile thing, as fleeting as the desert wind. The riches that dazzled others were chains to the heart that sought wisdom, for they reminded him that even kings are bound by desire, by ambition, and by the human need to be remembered not just as rulers, but as men who dared to touch the divine. And so the golden city shone like a dream, radiant and eternal in appearance, yet within it stirred the quiet tremor of a king who knew that brilliance can illuminate, but also blind. The greatest treasures, he realized, were not measured in gold or silver, but in the fragile beauty of a heart that seeks to love, to guide, and to understand the souls entrusted to him. Even the wisest heart can falter. According to 1 Kings, chapter 3, verse 12, Solomon, crowned with glory and crowned with wisdom, walked through his golden palaces, yet felt a yearning that no treasure could satisfy. His eyes, once filled with the clarity of heaven, now lingered on pleasures and alliances that pulled at his soul like the tides of the sea. The scriptures tell us Solomon loved many foreign women, from Moab, Ammon, Edom, Sidon, and Hittite lands, far beyond the command of the Lord. They brought beauty, music, and the intoxicating charm of distant worlds. And in their embrace, he found a dangerous sweetness. For every song of devotion, every gilded hall, whispered temptation, a gentle but persistent tug away from the God who had given him understanding. And so, the king who judged with such divine clarity found himself torn between devotion and desire. His heart, once a vessel of unclouded insight, now quivered under the weight of love and longing, caught between the eternal call of wisdom and the fleeting seduction of flesh. It was a quiet tragedy, unfolding in the brilliance of the court. Even the heart most illuminated by God can wander when it forgets its first love. In the stillness of night, beneath the watchful stars, one could almost hear the whisper of the Almighty, tender yet sorrowful. Wisdom must guide the heart as much as it guides the mind. And Solomon, even in splendor, felt the fragile tremor of a soul, learning that desire can both illuminate and obscure the path of kings. Beyond courts and palaces, beyond judgment and gold, Solomon's heart sang. The Book of Songs tells of a love that is at once tender, fiery, and sacred, a poetry of longing, a hymn to the beauty of human connection. In these verses, he gave voice to emotions too deep for mere words, weaving desire, devotion, and divine reflection into a tapestry of the soul. Each line was a confession, each metaphor a mirror of the heart's secret chambers. He wrote of beloveds who were like gardens, of gazes that could ignite the spirit, of whispers that echoed the intimacy of God's presence in the human experience. Here, Solomon was not the king of nations, but the poet of the human heart, a man who glimpsed eternity in a lover's eyes, who felt the sacred in the tender, fleeting moments of life. Yet even in poetry, shadows linger. The same passion that inspires beauty can awaken longing unfulfilled, a hunger that nothing earthly can satisfy. Solomon's songs reveal the brilliance of his soul, but also its fragility, the tension between divine wisdom and human desire. They remind us that even the greatest minds and most exalted kings are, at their core, seekers of love, understanding, and connection. In the quiet hours, when the city slept and the stars bore witness, one could imagine Solomon reading his own verses, heart laid bare, realizing that wisdom alone cannot shield the heart from longing. His poetry became both sanctuary and confession, a delicate bridge between the mortal and the eternal. Solomon's wisdom extended beyond the court and the temple. It stretched into the deserts and seas, into the hearts of kings and queens. His reign was a delicate dance of diplomacy, a tapestry woven with marriages, treaties, and the exchange of treasures. Each alliance was a stroke on the canvas of a kingdom striving for peace, prosperity, and the promise of eternity. Among these, the union with Pharaoh's daughter stands as both a triumph and a warning. She brought the grandeur of Egypt to Jerusalem, a bridge between nations, a bond sealed with elegance and subtle power. Yet in her presence, as in others, the heart of Solomon was tested. Love, politics, and desire intertwined, reminding him that the most brilliant mind is still guided by the fragile pulse of the human heart. Solomon navigated this world like a poet of power, seeing beyond gold and armies to the deeper currents of loyalty, trust, and intention. Yet the weight of these alliances was not light. Every crown offered in friendship carried expectation. Every gift, a whisper of obligation. Every smile, a shadow of seduction. The king who could judge nations with wisdom now carried the invisible burden of countless hearts and ambitions. And so the kingdom prospered, and Solomon's name became a melody that echoed through empires. Yet behind the harmony of diplomacy, the subtle tension of the human soul persisted, a reminder that even in glory, the heart of a king can be a battlefield of longing, love, and the longing for perfection that only God can grant. Even the brightest light casts shadows. Solomon, whose wisdom was renowned across the earth, began to feel the subtle weight of choices that pulled him away from the path of purity and devotion. His heart, once a vessel overflowing with understanding and reverence for the Almighty, now found itself entangled in desires that whispered promises sweeter than obedience. The scriptures warn, but King Solomon loved many foreign women, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as was the heart of his father David. These alliances, built in the grandeur of palaces and gardens, became gateways for temptation. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the king who had asked for wisdom began to drift toward the allure of earthly pleasures, each choice dimming the brilliance of his earlier devotion. In the stillness of the night, when the city slept under a veil of stars, Solomon could hear the echoes of his own soul, a heart torn between the eternal and the fleeting, between divine calling and human longing. What had once been clarity now wavered like a candle in the wind. Even wisdom, he discovered, could not shield the heart from wandering. And so, a quiet tragedy unfolded. The king who had touched the heights of heaven began to feel the pull of shadows, the subtle erosion of the soul that even glory could not prevent. It was a reminder that no crown, no palace, no song could replace the steadfast devotion that God alone demands. Solomon's reign left the world breathless, a kingdom of gold, of temples, and of wisdom that sang across generations. Merchants and monarchs marveled at the riches of Israel, the grandeur of the temple, and the brilliance of a king whose mind seemed to mirror the infinite. Yet beneath this splendor, a quieter, more painful legacy took root. The scriptures tell us of a heart divided, of wisdom overshadowed by desire. The man who once prayed for discernment now bore the weight of choices that had led him away from the God who had crowned him. Each palace, each alliance, each song of praise was a monument not only to triumph, but to the subtle sorrow of a heart stretched thin by ambition, longing, and human frailty. Solomon's story reminds us that greatness is never measured by gold or power alone. It is measured by the fidelity of the heart, by the courage to walk in light, even when shadows tempt. And though his reign dazzled the earth, the whisper of regret lingered like a shadow beneath the sun, a haunting reminder that even the wisest can stumble, and even the most radiant crowns cannot heal the wounds of a heart that has strayed. In this duality of glory and sorrow, Solomon's life becomes a mirror for all who seek wisdom, a testament to the heights a man can reach and the fragile, human heart that must guide him there. Time, relentless and silent, reached even Solomon. The king who had asked for wisdom and built a kingdom of dreams now faced the quiet of his final days. Palaces still gleamed, the temple stood majestic, and his songs lingered in the hearts of men, yet within him, the echoes of choices made and paths wandered whispered with tender sorrow. The scriptures reflect his twilight. So Solomon slept with his ancestors, and he was buried in the city of David his father. A life that had touched the heavens and wandered into shadows came to rest, yet his story did not vanish. Across generations, his wisdom flows like a river through time, carrying both the brilliance of insight and the lessons of human frailty. Even in the shadow of regret, there is a light that endures. Solomon's life is a testament that greatness is not perfect, that wisdom is intertwined with vulnerability, and that even a heart that falters can leave an eternal echo. The songs he wrote, the judgments he rendered, the temples he built, all remain, a dialogue between the finite and the divine, a reminder that humanity, at its most luminous, is still tender, still searching, still capable of both awe and error. And so, the tale of Solomon reaches us across the ages, inviting reflection, wonder, and the gentle understanding that in every heart lies the capacity for wisdom, for love, and for redemption. The sun sets on the golden city, yet the light of Solomon's life refuses to fade. His name, whispered by sages and sung by poets, carries across time a melody of wisdom, longing, and the fragile beauty of the human heart. He was a king who touched the heights of heaven, who walked among palaces and temples, whose mind glimpsed eternity. And yet he was still a man, bound by desire, tested by love, and humbled by the shadows within. Solomon teaches us that greatness is not measured by wealth or power, but by the courage to seek understanding, the humility to confront our own hearts, and the willingness to let wisdom guide us even when temptation calls. His life is a mirror, reflecting the eternal dance between brilliance and fallibility, between aspiration and human frailty. And as the stars rise over Jerusalem, their silent light bears witness. Every heart carries the potential for wisdom, for love, and for redemption. Solomon's story, radiant and haunting, reminds us that even in our imperfection, we can strive for insight, create beauty, and leave echoes that endure beyond time. The crown may rest, the temples may stand, the songs may linger, but the eternal whisper remains. Seek wisdom, guard your heart, and let the light of understanding guide your path. God bless your life,